Hey there, welcome back to Creepy Encounters. In today's video, never going for a late night walk again. The dancing pedophile. I guess I was right all along. My partner and I were trying to do an all-nighter to prepare him for his night shift tomorrow. He does the odd shift here and there with a temp agency as he is a student. We thought it would be a good idea to walk to the corner store at midnight. Now I am wondering why we thought this was a good idea, to keep us awake. And I had a small parcel I could post in the post box while we were at it. The corner store with said post box is around a 5-minute walk from our home. It's a super quick walk, and our neighborhood is pretty safe. We left the house, telling his sister whom we live with that we were just popping out. Everything was fine. I hold the package in my hand, and we walked to the shop. We were crossing the road when we saw that in the parking spaces outside, there was a van between two cars with its lights on, and when getting closer there were two adults inside. We walked past the front windscreen, and when getting out of their line of sight, we heard the van's door open, and a man shouted, "Excuse me, you dropped something." Their tone was off, and I just got bad vibes. My partner and I looked behind us, and the door slammed, but our view of the van was obscured by another car. I couldn't tell whether the person had sat back in their car or was outside the door. My partner went to walk and check, but I couldn't see anything on the floor from where we were standing, so stopped him. I put my package in the post box and we crossed from the box, instead of walking back to pass their windshield again. When across the road, my partner said he saw that the male was standing outside of the van, and walking in front of the windshield. We got really bad vibes from this, and tried to tell ourselves he was just looking to see if we had in fact dropped something, but we had only left the house with the package and my phone, nothing else. We didn't drop anything. When across the road and almost on our street, we saw the van pull out of the parking space, and speed up the road toward us. I immediately called his sister and made it clear I was on the phone while rushing back to our house. They sped up the road past us, going way over the speed limit. Although we didn't share a conversation, we both got the worst vibes from the encounter. I am confident we didn't drop anything, and that they were waiting at their van's door for us to turn back and get closer. I just feel shaken up, to be honest. Back when I was younger, around 12, there was a man who we will call Aiden, because his name was Aiden and he's a freaking creep. So, Aiden was in his late 30s at the time and a close friend of the ballet instructor at the academy I attended. Performance time. Cast list released. Aiden and I had to dance together. The performance was Coppelia, and I was playing the part of Aiden's prize doll. For his role, he is a doll maker, and he created Coppelia, and falls in love with her. He thinks she is perfect, so tries to bring her to life, but a group of kids from the village breaks into his doll making studio and mess with his stuff. Aiden always creeped me out, and I avoided him at all costs. Before this, that wasn't hard because we were in different classes, but now we have to dance together. He always seemed to be trying really hard to intrigue me. He told me about his cats, and how cute they are, and asked if I wanted to see them. I said sure, expecting him to whip out a cool new iPhone 3 and show me a picture. But instead he offered to take me home after class and sleep over, because we had rehearsals in the morning and he could bring me back. It was Friday night, and oftentimes the weekends had rehearsals going all day. I said no thank you. He told me he had pointe shoes in his dance bag and offered to show them to me, but I would have to go in the boys' dressing room with him. It's becoming more common, but men wearing pointe shoes wasn't really a thing. It's definitely considered a female thing in the ballet world. He was telling me about them like the shoes were hidden treasure. Our studio only had a handful of guys, and during that particular time Aiden was the only guy that had to be there for this scene. So no one else would be walking into that room. I said no, but if he wanted to show me, he could bring them out. He never did. There was a particular scene in the ballet, where the village kids had broken in, taken off my clothes, and one of the girls dressed up as me, the doll, to mess with the doll maker. Obviously they don't really have a naked kid up on stage. But I did have to wear a nude leotard. It's like a flesh-colored one-piece swimsuit. Once the doll maker finds his doll stripped and shoved in the closet, she pulls me out and hugs me on the floor while he's crying over me. Aiden wanted to practice this. A lot. A whole lot. He insisted that I wear my costume while we practice. If you didn't know, a black leotard is standard attire for ballet class, so he was asking me to change into the exact same thing I'm wearing, but flesh-colored. He would ask me to come to the studio to practice our parts while no one else was there. It's not uncommon for leading roles to have keys so they can come practice as much as they'd like to. The first and only time I went to go practice with him alone, all he wanted to practice was the cry scene cause he thought I needed to be more limp and I just wasn't doing it right. Sure. My part at this time is a lifeless doll, so anytime I tried to move or tense up he would tell me to relax and that I couldn't move, and to let his movements flow through me into my lifeless body. So he wouldn't start until I got changed into the nude leotard. We began practice. He was wailing over me, rubbing his hands all up and down my body, across my chest, my butt, everything. I really don't like confrontation. I've gotten a lot better as an adult, but as a kid, I definitely just took things without fighting. Unfortunately, that was the case here. I didn't ask him to stop or fight, I was just scared and uncomfortable. He wanted to practice that scene for what seemed like eternity, but I think it was about an hour or so. After I got home, I had Facebook messages from him. He was telling me how pretty I am and asked me if I knew what blowjob meant and stuff, and started going in detail about how he and his ex-girlfriend would touch each other. I showed my mom the messages and told her what happened at practice. She exploded in full mom mode and contacted my teacher about his actions. My teacher refused to have a meeting with us about the issue and said I was banned from ever coming back. My parents were really confused and absolutely livid. I had danced with her company since I was a toddler, and we were all pretty close. She said he has been her friend here decades and I'm lying and not welcome back. I was completely heartbroken, and honestly my feelings are still pretty tender about that to this day. A few weeks later, the girl they had replaced me also was no longer welcome back to the studio. My parents reached out to hers, and guess what? Aiden was speaking to her about inappropriate topics and made her daughter feel very uncomfortable because he insisted that she wore her nude leotard all of the time, and his hand ran across her chest, and she ended up telling the teacher that she was scared. After that, Aiden got recast as a common villager. Funny, he gets to stay at the company, and another girl got the doll role. He did a lot of really creepy stuff. I could write a book about it. This is a rough summary of the filth that he is. So this story isn't very scary, but I would say it checks the box for creepy. To preface, I have always kind of had a sixth sense for creeps. What I mean by that is that I am extremely observant of my surroundings, especially when it comes to men, which is most likely a societal byproduct of being a young female. Whether I'm in a crowded shopping mall or walking through a grocery store, suspicious people always seem to stick out like a sore thumb to me, and I know to keep my distance. Thankfully, this has actually saved me from a few odd encounters, but nothing super noteworthy unless I've somehow blocked the memory out. However, one of the populations I have always been cautious of are male teachers. I'm in college now, and professors generally are a lot less creepy than high/middle/elementary school teachers, because lower education is usually where the pedos reside. Over the course of my education, there have been 3 teachers that have given me extremely bad vibes, like I shouldn't be in a room alone with them. I always kind of brushed it off as me being overly paranoid because of all the horror I consumed through movies, TV shows, and even Reddit. That was until I found out some information about one of those teachers after I graduated. Turns out, his wife and daughters had actually left him a few years ago because he acted inappropriately around his daughters. On top of that, right after I graduated, he was fired, or resigned, can't be too sure, because he was caught soliciting services from underage girls in detention and outside of school. He was always seen as one of the cool teachers, and my brother actually knew him pretty well, so I always felt abnormal for never wanting to be near him. Now I know my intuition was just doing its job. My fears weren't misplaced either. By the way, I would constantly catch this man staring at me in the hallways and during school assemblies. Somehow he'd search me out, and just in time to make uncomfortable eye contact with him. I only ever spoke to the guy a couple of times because he was actually more than just a teacher. He was the dean of students. And while I was a well-behaved kid, I had a run-in with him my freshman year. I would make an effort to avoid him, going through different entrances and exits even if it meant going the longer way or making a fool of myself. I know this wasn't that scary, but I've had to deal with the creepy stares and even creepier fascination from male teachers since I was 12 years old, and something about knowing I was right this entire time about just one reminds me to always listen to that gut instinct. I hope you enjoyed the video. Please like and subscribe for more real-life creepy encounters around the world. See you in the next video. Bye.